Hello and welcome to Not a Buffalo, the show where we discuss the science and technology that will save the world. My name's Ben, and wherever I am in the world, it's cold and it's dark and I don't like it. This is Jack, and he's fleeing somewhere hot sometime soon, so I'm rather jealous of him right now. How are you, Jack?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to the vacation and the sunshine because you know what? Wherever I am in the world, it's also cold and rainy.
Do you want to tell us where you're going?
No, not really.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I was just on holiday last week myself, except I decided to go to Tallinn, Estonia in November as the sensible person that I am.
How cold was it?
It was -1 degrees at one point. It got up to seven. It got up to 7 degrees
Got up
on
to
one
seven.
day. Yeah, but there was
Oh,
the thing I noticed about Tallinn is that they have coat hooks everywhere. Like you go into a restaurant and there's lots of coat stands and things. They're very well prepared for people having a lot of coats and scarves and hats and gloves that they need to take off when they get into the restaurant. So it wasn't too bad. Apparently, it can get down to -20 degrees. But for us, it was only -1 degree at worst, so it wasn't horrendous. I had a big coat, I was fine.
yeah. I'm very happy that I live somewhere that's not as cold as Tallinn.
Tallinn was beautiful, though. I would highly recommend visiting. Maybe not in November, but I definitely highly recommend, because the old town is still basically a medieval city. They still have the medieval walls, and there's lots of people walking around in monks' robes and suits of armor, and then you have the fact that it's kind of a Nordic country as well, and that it's very internet technology enabled. So like there's a lot of cashless places, and you can just pay by card everywhere, and public transport's all kind of done via your phone and QR codes and things like that. So it's good.
This is kind of what I've heard, is that in a lot of ways, Estonia is more like a Scandinavian country than an Eastern European one.
Luckily, it wasn't quite as expensive as a Scandinavian country.
Okay. Is it
you know,
still
like-
expensive for Eastern Europe?
I'd say it's more expensive than, say, Croatia or Slovakia, somewhere like that. We went into, we'd get a beer for €5, €4 in places. Obviously, some of the tourist traps are a bit more expensive, but food was probably a little bit cheaper as well. Like we went to fairly cheap places most of the time, just like kind of canteen style places and shopping malls. And you get a meal, like a big meal there though, for €8 or something. Like they love potatoes and they love cream and oil.
I'm perfectly happy with both of those things.
Yeah, like there was lots of creamy soups, and they add sour cream to a lot of things. And then we went into this place a couple of times, and I got chips one day, like these garlic, like thin garlic French fries, and they gave me at least half a kilo of them. I'd say they gave me so many. It was a huge mound of them. Like, the guy gave me a huge spoonful. I was like, wow, that's quite a lot. And then he went back and gave me another huge spoonful onto the same plate. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. And it was a good week overall. And yeah, I'd highly recommend going and checking it out if you ever get the chance. But yeah, probably not November if you're not a fan of the cold.
Yeah, no, maybe summer.
So, have you got an interesting story for us? Or maybe even more than one interesting story, as that would be a really short podcast otherwise.
My first story is that NASA have released their latest version of their software catalog. Their software catalog is basically a PDF that you can download from their website, which has a list of all of the software that they've developed and still maintain and run. And you can use it as a business or as a private individual for basically whatever you want. Some of it's still run on NASA servers, so you have to write an application to use their servers because it's public time. But because they are a publicly funded company, a federally funded company, then all of this is free to use. So they've got a virtual reality platform designed with off-the-shelf hardware and game engine software to create digital training environments where engineers can practice procedures.
Wow, okay.
Got an application that lets users explore the diverse ecosystem of experiments being researched on the International Space Station. And they've also got systems for autonomous navigation, which are like mobile and like low cost. Those ones I've just read out are just like the highlights on a blog post that alerted me to the new catalogue coming out. And I think all 3 of those are new this year. I don't remember them from previous years, but
So you're a regular subscriber to the NASA catalogue?
I think I became aware of it last year. So it's something I watch out for, but, this is only the second year that I've been aware of it. And I've just caught sight of the actual number. It's 976 software packages. So almost 1,000 software packages.
Wow.
It's fantastic. Like, there's project management stuff, there's business systems, there's design tools, there's all sorts of stuff, because NASA has this huge gamut of things that it needs to do, and so it builds this enormous catalogue of software, and that's available to us as the public, which I think is just amazing.
Do you know one thing they need to do now?
Is it Segway?
It's bake cookies.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Like with software?
Not with software, no, but I just wanted to... I'm sorry, it was just such a good opportunity for a segue. I thought I'd cut your story a little bit short.
It was a good opportunity for a segue.
Yeah, so NASA have decided that, to quote Jordana Fitchenbaum, who is Zero G Kitchen's social media specialist, when you're in space, you want to have the smell of cookies.
I do understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, so they basically created a zero-G oven, and they've already sent up the chocolate chip cookie dough, which is in a freezer on the International Space Station, and they're going to bake cookies.
Is that a spinning oven?
I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really go into how the oven works. It's the first of its kind, but it basically just says, look, we can bake cookies in space now, so astronauts don't have to eat, pizza in a tube or whatever it was they were eating before.
Oh, I was thinking you could do that, or you could also you could have maybe airflow would work to keep the shape of it, but I'm not sure. Yeah,
well, apparently the cookies currently resemble a frozen hockey puck, and the oven can get up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 177 degrees Celsius, and it uses electric heating elements. Apparently, it takes a baking time of 15 to 20 minutes per cookie, but it can only do one cookie at a time, so it is quite a small oven, and would be really annoying if you were the last person to get a cookie, if you were the last person in line for one, because you've had to wait an hour and 20 minutes then, and smell the cookies the entire time.
I suppose it does prolong the time in which cookie smell will be in the air, though, if you have to cook a full batch one at a time.
It does. That's a good point. Oh wait, I've just seen at the end they have enough for 5 cookies. They have 5 things, but 3 of them are going to be returned to Earth for analysis. So only 2 astronauts get cookies.
I'd love to be like the NASA guy who was explaining that to the astronauts, like, I know you're working really hard, but there's no cookies this week. We need it for science. We need your ovens for science.
And apparently it's going to take them a good few weeks to actually install the oven as well. So yeah, this is going to be one astronaut is going to get a cookie in 6 weeks' time, and it's probably not going to be worth it because something's probably going to go wrong. They do say they want to see, they think this will work, but it's all a theory at the moment, and they need to actually bake the cookie to see if it works and see how zero-G will actually affect the cookie. It could end up as just basically a pancake blob kind of mush that's not been baked properly.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
If you were thinking about becoming an astronaut but didn't want to miss out on the food that you get back on Earth, then they're making steps to make it more homely and comfortable for you.
Yeah, and by the time that you become an astronaut with the rigorous amount of training and the multiple years to prepare for a mission, the oven might even be up and running.
And you'll definitely deserve a cookie for all the work you put in.
Yeah, that is true. Definitely deserve a cookie.
So anyway, yeah, that was my first story.
The reason I asked about the spinning oven was because I too have a story about going around in circles.
Nice.
Which is that, yeah, that's right. That's a segue.
You're learning. You've come so far.
Which is that Delft, in the Netherlands, in the south of the Netherlands, are developing their very own Where Elon Musk Hyperloop.
Oh, I've heard of these guys. Yeah, there's a few companies trying to develop it, isn't there? What's the name of this company?
This one is called Heart Hyperloop.
Oh, okay.
Which is HARDT and then Hyperloop, because I feel like that's a common enough word. and they've received a bunch of investment in like the last couple of months. This is actually a story from late October, but I think it came out just after we did our last recording.
Okay.
So I'm classifying it as a November story.
Oh yeah, I save stories over the month, so as soon as we've kind of recorded, I then just start saving stories for the next month. So
their plan is to launch as early as 2025, which is kind of cool.
And where are they building it between? Or is it just a test track at the moment?
At the moment, it's a test track, but I believe it was The Hague to somewhere. I'm not sure what the other end was going to be, and this article doesn't mention it.
Just the sea.
Yeah, just from The Hague to the...
Straight into the ocean.
That's how they deal with war criminals now.
Oh, wow. Just shoot them at 1,000 miles an hour.
High velocity
straight
into the North Sea. Isn't science wonderful? But yeah, so that's the story. And
sorry, I found that really amusing.
I should say as well, 2025 is their plan for their first commercial Hyperloop. So their test track is going to be going up in the next couple of months and years. And then they're planning to do a commercial one by 2025, which is quite soon. Like, that's only 5-6 years away.
Yeah, that seems really soon. I thought there was... I may be getting this wrong because everything seems to be 2030 at the moment, but I thought I saw that the first commercial Hyperloop wouldn't be available until at least 2030. But I mean, everything just seems to be focused on 2030 now. So I might be making that up.
I think 2025 seems really optimistic, but I mean, more power to them if they manage it.
That would be very cool.
But yeah.
I would very much like to have a go on a Hyperloop.
Yeah, I would.
Can you still read whilst you're travelling? Because that would kind of be a deal, but I'd rather get somewhere slower but be able to entertain myself than have to sit still and just watch the world whiz by too quickly to understand anything for half the time.
I quite like the idea of being able to, like, commute across a whole continent. That's quite appealing to me.
That is,
because then you could live somewhere which is warm, and then you could work somewhere where it's cold and people pay high salaries.
That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Just have a little villa in southern Italy and then go and work in Oslo and earn Oslo salaries every day, or Zurich salaries.
Yeah. Or like pop up from Florida to New York for like lunch.
That is the future we want.
So that's the Delft Hyperloop.
That's really cool. Well, you know what? They're going to need a good way to power that. And I have some great news coming out of McGill University, who have gained tantalizing, and yes, they use the word tantalizing in the article, new insights into the properties of perovskites.
What is a perovskite?
That's a good question. Reading the article... I've read the article several times. As far as I can tell, it's some kind of crystal. So... But there's a lot of acronyms in here, and it's quite hard for me to follow. But basically, McGill University researchers use a multi-dimensional electronic spectrometer, which is a unique instrument hand-built at McGill, and definitely sounds like some bored grad student got to name it, to observe the behavior of electrons in cesium-lead iodide perovskite nanocrystals. And they were able to measure the behavior of electrons over just 10 femtoseconds, which is 10 millionths of a billionth of a second. And it says right there, perovskites are seemingly solid crystals. Well, there you go. I should have just carried on and remembered that bit of the article.
I am genuinely struggling to understand the meaning of this for science.
Well, basically, what they do is it challenges our kind of conventional understanding of the difference between liquids and solids. Because the perovskite crystals, what they're doing in response to light, they can behave like a liquid, which, as far as I could understand it, is it allows them to they kind of dance about, and that enables them to be more efficient and effective at converting the solar energy into electronic energy, which is something that could lead to better and cheaper solar panels. So or solar cells, I should say, which obviously you put into solar panels. And it means they could be more defect tolerant, is the word they use, which is a little bit weird, but essentially, because the crystals kind of act like a liquid, then there's less chance of things going wrong, as is my understanding. I don't think the article didn't really bother to explain it in great detail, because I think it's quite complicated. But basically, the good news is that we have found a promising discovery that could lead to better and cheaper solar cells.
I have a feeling, in fact it's a bit more than feeling, that I remember the name perovskite or something very similar to it being mentioned in connection with high temperature superconductivity. Something to do with the structure of it, I think. Is there something particularly special about the structure?
Yeah, so they can flow like a liquid, but their molecules are grouped in small and regularly ordered units. So they can go into columns that can conduct electrical energy along their whole length. So they can serve as basically organic liquid power cables and provide targeted electricity transmission. Apparently most materials conduct positive charges carried by holes. These new molecules can actually conduct the electrons and move the electrons along, so that allows, as I said, them to kind of heal themselves and therefore be defect tolerant, but also to conduct electricity more effectively.
Okay, and is it like an orthorhombic or is it a cubic structure?
They don't say that, they just say regular ordered shapes, regular ordered units. And obviously anything that makes solar panels cheaper, more effective, all good, because you definitely need more technology like that.
Would it be used as like a coating or something like that?
No, I think you'd actually use it to create, you'd make the solar cells out of these crystals and then put all the solar cells together to form solar panels, and then it would enable, as I understand it, slightly better and more efficient transformation of solar energy into electricity.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's a really ideal application as well. Like, it's a very nice time for that to come along.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to see a lot more things like this.
I don't have any segue apart from...
Is your story also positive?
Yeah, my story is really positive.
There you go. Perfect
segue.
What?
If we just go back to the beginning, because my story is about the beginning, because it's about the Big Bang. The Big Bang is what we take as the beginning of the universe, and there is another section called inflation, which is when the universe inflated, because we're good at naming things in science, and we don't really know how to model the bits between the two, and we really can't get back before the Big Bang.
Makes sense.
That's been a mystery for quite a while. So what this team of researchers at Kenyon College, MIT, and the University of Leiden in the Netherlands have done is they've simulated a transition between inflation and the Big Bang, which they call reheating.
Okay.
And they were doing research into exotic materials, and somebody, I don't know who exactly, proposed the idea that instead of just cooling as it expanded, what if there was a sudden reheating period, or there was a variation? It wasn't just a straight line for the heat of the universe as it cooled off because it expanded, because as you know, when things expand they cool off, and it actually works in the modeling.
Wow.
If this right, it's a long way from being anywhere near provable, but assuming that it's correct, this could be used for all sorts of things like faster air travel, because it's got I think it has some kind of aerodynamics link as well, because of the basic physics of the universe that it would throw up. But yeah, it's it's kind of a fairly random model that's been put together by a Dutch-American team, and it seems to work, which is really, it's fantastic. It's one of those things that sometimes the next scientific breakthrough comes from somewhere you wouldn't necessarily expect it to come from.
But is it one of those situations where they've kind of done the model and it's worked out the first time unexpectedly, and they're now kind of saying to people, please try and find if I've done anything wrong, because it'd be really cool if this works, but it shouldn't work because we never get that lucky, so could someone please try and prove this wrong?
It is kind of like that. I don't know how many models they tried before they came out with this one and went, haha, but yeah, it does seem like they've got a little bit lucky. But yeah, it's fantastic. And one things they're looking for is finding an imprint in the cosmic microwave background, because that's our earliest record of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But they say, it could be very difficult to find an imprint in the cosmic microwave background, and it might take years for this, but you never know. They got a model that works at last, so maybe we're on the road to something really, really fantastic and a brand new insight about the origins of our universe.
That is a really cool story and a very positive story, so yeah, I really like that.
Love fundamental science stories. I really do. Like stuff that really pushes at the boundary of our knowledge.
Do you think we're starting to develop kind of personalities or traits that are recognizable? Because now that I think about it, you do often come up with stories about the kind of the Big Bang and the formation of the universe and kind of the general laws of physics, whereas I'm much more of a oh, here's this cool technology that's been invented, or we think we found a better way of doing this thing.
I think you've always had a personality.
That's good.
Yeah, but I think there is a trend. Like, there are trends and things that we are bringing to the table, and I think it's also, it tells you a lot about the kind of stuff you and I read.
Yes.
As well.
Yes, definitely. Do you have any other stories? I think that's kind of it for me.
No, that is all of my stories.
Awesome. Take us out.
Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to the show to never miss an episode, and rate and review us wherever you have the power to do so. If you'd like to get in touch, we are at Not a Buffalo Pod on Twitter, Not a Buffalo Podcast on Facebook, or contact us through our website, notabuffalo.wordpress.com. Bye.
Bye-bye.